Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt and Brandon shooting a video for One Accord for Kids over the topic of, it's a very important topic, virtual parent visits and best practices. So we're going to have a few people on, two foster parents and then John Scotty, who works for CPS as well. But real quick, Brandon, tell us about these parent visits. Why are parent visits so important?
Right, so parent visits are an important part of any child welfare case, especially when the goal is reunification, as it is in most cases. And so those visits are important to maintain the bond and even strengthen the bond that children have with their parents as we prepare children to go back home. Especially this time when we're dealing with this pandemic and the news and the stress of being locked inside, it's important for children to know that their parents are out there and that their parents are safe, and vice versa. It's really important for parents to have the sense that their children are being taken care of, and moving visits from in-person to virtual is good for public health, and it allows the fundamentals of visits to continue.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine being a parent, not having my kiddo around, especially during this time. So these are very important right now. So let's hop over to the interview and see what they have to say.
Let's do it. So we'll go ahead and get started now. And my first question, I guess, we are in a different place than we were a couple of months ago in child welfare with dealing with the coronavirus, with the various emergency orders that are in place that prevent business as usual and require the agency and the system to kind of adapt in a hurry. And so the purpose really of this conversation is to talk about the way that visitation with parents is changing. And so John Scotty is the program director for conservatorship in the Permian Basin. We wanted him to get on really quickly and answer some questions just about, mainly about how things are changing. So John, could you tell us how the agency, how the department is addressing visitation with parents? And I know some of this relates to court orders, and so it may not be the same across the entire Permian Basin or the state, but what's happening for virtual visitation?
So most of the courts here have modified orders so that that's given the department the discretion to kind of move towards the virtual visitation. They've really kind of left it to the department to be flexible on how visits are going. And that's for, the Ector County courts, pretty much all the courts in the Permian Basin. So Midland has issued an order similar to what Judge Scown issued. And then Judge Gomez in the outlying counties has also issued a very similar order. And basically what it does is it gives us the latitude in most cases to assess the situation, and if virtual visitation is going to be something that's going to be feasible in that case, and there's not any other kind of existing legal orders in that case, then we can modify them and move to like a virtual format. And really the courts didn't want to over specify what type of medium to use for the visits. So we have a pretty good broad latitude on technologies available and how to facilitate those visits.
Could you give some indication of what the experience is so far, what flexibility is available, and sort of what you're seeing?
So we've issued out to our staff several different tools to help with the visits. We have Zoom available to us. We have GoToMeeting. All of our techs that monitor visits have got accounts for both of those at this point. We've also been issued on our state phones the Google Dual, which will allow us to interface between an iPhone and an Android and still do the video communication. We also have FaceTime available. All of our techs and all of our workers have iPhones. So if everybody has Apple phones, we've sent out information sheets on how to do multi-user video conferencing through the iPhones. Same thing with the Google Duo. And again, I think that's pretty much the technologies that we're trying to use at this point. But we are continually assessing what's out there. We're meeting on almost a daily basis to kind of go over if there's any new technologies we can use, what's working well, what's not, and trying to adapt to this new format so that we can make it as interactive and productive and really try to minimize the impact that we have on the connection of the families.
One of the questions I've gotten is about the length of visits. Has there been any shift in the length of visits given this new change in format? And also, sort of the rest of the question is, do you have any suggestions or tips for making virtual visits with parents go better, either for agency staff, for CPA staff, or for foster parents?
So, with regard to the length of visits, especially for our younger kiddos, it's just not going to be feasible for a kid under 5 to sit there on a phone and talk to their parents for an hour. So kind of the instruction that we've given our staff is we may need to break those visits up into shorter segments, depending on the age and the development of the child. So break them up, and instead of doing like a 1 hour visit, do 3 or 4 15-minute visits or something like that. So reduce the overall length of each individual visit, but increase the frequency. And as far as the second part of your question for how to interact and make the visits productive, really that's going to have to be done on a case-by-case basis, given the development of a child. If you've got a 10-year-old, for the most part, they can kind of carry on a conversation with their parents. You might give them a starter activity to kind of break the ice and get them going and get that communication started. If you have a younger child, a 4 or 5-year-old, you are going to have to kind of keep them focused on the interaction with their parents, and they're going to get distracted by things in the house or things like that. So it may require some redirection on the part of the foster parents or the caregivers to kind of bring them back in the conversation, give them an activity or something that they can sit still on, or even if it's get them focused on an activity and maybe one of the caregivers or foster parents hold the phone and show a video of them doing the activity, and then have the parent engage with them on, hey, what are you doing? Can you tell me what you're drawing? Can you tell me what you're building? Things like that.
All right. Thanks, John. So Red Lively and Dustin Hahn are foster parents in the Permian Basin, and each of them have some experience with this new way of doing. And so, Rhett, I would start with you and just ask, how's it going? What has been your experience with moving visits online? I know that we are really relying on foster parents in a new way now. And so I'll start with our appreciation for that and then ask, how's it going?
So far, it's going pretty good. We have 2 cases currently. One of those is a 4-year-old. The other one is a wider range, 3 to 10. The 4-year-old's visits are 15 minutes at a shot every other day, and it's all we can do to keep him focused in that 15 minutes, like John was talking about. Usually he's playing with some sort of toy while he's talking, telling them about the toy, whatever that is. The other case, we have some of the siblings. The other siblings are in another household. And so it's a 4 to 5 way conversation, depending on if Casa's on too, because she likes to be at visits or at least see the visits. And so sometimes she's on there too, with all of them going. And the brother that's in another household likes to talk a lot. The girls we have here, sometimes, it just depends on their mood that day and how things are going. But they seem to be doing very well. And we actually have set ours up on a webcam through my laptop. We throw it up on the TV, so it's a bigger picture. makes it a little easier for them to see. And then the webcam has a wider view than what the computer does on its own, so that they can see more of the room that the kids are in, especially when that bigger group's in there and there's more of them to watch and be involved in.
Well, in the short time that you've had this new challenge and opportunity, do you have any suggestions? You said, put it up on a larger screen so that it's more engaging. Do you have anything else that you could give as a recommendation?
Yeah, we just moved to this house about a year ago, and I'm very thankful that we're here because we have 2 living areas, so that we can do the visit in one while everybody else is in another part of the house playing or eating or whatever they're doing. Our old house was 1,300 square feet, 1 living area. Everybody was on top of each other. And that was a lot harder. So if you can make it where somebody's outside while they're doing visits or they're in a different part of the house to kind of cut down the background noise, that's a big help, because I know those cameras don't differentiate between the kids. And if they're all talking at once, it's just chaos on the other end trying to hear things. So that's the biggest one. The other one, like I said, getting it up on the biggest screen you can for them so that they can see it, especially if you have sibling groups. Then they're not trying to fight over the 4-inch phone to be able to see everything.
Well, thanks, Rhett. Those are really good suggestions. Dustin, I'd ask the same questions to you. You have some experience with this new technology, and how's it going, and what tips do you have?
Yeah, it's going good so far. Now we've had 1 visit last week and 1 visit this week. You talk about the time stuff. Like we've got 2 kiddos. They usually have a 2-hour visit with mom. We're down to 30 minutes in that time. So that's it's a bummer for them not getting to see mom for that long. They want to keep going usually. They've changed this week. We have a second visit. So we'll start doing that every week, where every Wednesday, Friday, we're doing 30 minutes. But both the kids are doing that together. And it's been good. They're enjoying it. Some interesting things for us, like we have one common area in our house unless we go outside or we go in a bedroom or something like that. So we've actually been going to our church campus. I have access to our church campus. So we go in one of the kids' rooms. I'll set up there's a little chalkboard in one of the rooms that the kids can kind of draw pictures for mom as they're talking to her and that kind of thing, which has been fun. Also, I don't know, like, does mom need to see the inside of my house? I don't know if that's okay. If it's not, like, the other thing that's a little strange on just the contact side of things is like a Zoom meeting. When you schedule that, everybody that's on that Zoom meeting has your email. So, we don't normally give our numbers to foster parents. I'm new to this. Like, we've only been doing this a few months, so it seems to be not the common practice. But mom has an email contact for us. I actually created a silly new email so that mom didn't have access to the ones that I normally use. So if I don't know if she emails.
Well, I actually think that's a really good point and a good thing to think about. For the most part, our parents in CPS aren't necessarily a danger to society.
Sure.
But at the same time, there's just a privacy concern. This is your house, and you're inviting someone that you don't know in. And so I think that's a valid concern. And I think the things that you have suggested about ways to mitigate the risk, but also just the invasive nature of having someone in your home through technology are good suggestions. And certainly you would want to protect your contact information. So I'm sure that that's something that the department is aware of and something that the department tries to make sure doesn't get shared too widely.
Yeah, one of the things we do, Brandon, I have a Google Voice account. That is a phone number that's not my own. It's not tied to any of my addresses or anything. And if I get to the point with a bio family where we're exchanging communication that way for, unsupervised visits and that kind of thing, we give them that number. And that's actually carried on with one case that went home. We still talk to them and check in on the kids through that number, but then they don't have our actual phone number that can be traced back to, our address or anything else like that. But I'm with Dustin. Definitely do some sort of fake email, some silly email of some sort for this kind of thing. That way they don't have to have your actual email address. So.
Well, those are some really good suggestions all around. Matt, of course, is with the Attic Foster Network. Do you have anything to add? Any follow-ups or questions?
No, my biggest thing, we posted the question. I posted the question, I think last week. How's it going? What's going on? And I've just been so proud of our foster families who are just, they're rolling with it. They're not concerned about. They're not concerned about the frustration about it. They're just kind of like, this is just funny. It's just the way it is right now, and we're going to get through it. And so, for the most part, I mean, we chose these two, but we really probably could have chosen any foster parents in the Permian Basin, and they would have been excellent. And I really think a lot of that's, we have a culture within the fostering community. We're here to be. We're here for the families, and we want to see families reunited, and we want to see families come together. And so I'm just really proud of the Livelies. I'm proud of the Hans, just where you guys are at too. So
yeah, I want to say thank you to everybody, not just for this call, but for the work that you're doing and for the way that you're adapting. The agency has really been amazing in the way it's just kind of taking the blows and rolling with those punches and making, adding flexibility and waivers and all sorts of things on the fly, but while maintaining child safety. And of course, we have our foster parents who are doing things they didn't necessarily think about when they signed up because it wasn't part of the deal. But we're grateful to you guys, and we're grateful to the foster caring community of the Permian Basin.
Well, wow, that was a really good conversation we just had with and it's a rare thing to have foster parents and CPS and, private citizens on the phone. And so just really want to thank you guys for all that. Brandon, what did you think?
Man, that was, really that's community coming together, both the public side, the agency, and the private side, the child placing agencies and families and citizens just doing their part and figuring it out and working together and doing what's best for kids.
That's awesome.